Okay, today your practical is determination of crude protein. First of all, you have to get the sample weight to a weighing board. Your sample weight, initial sample weight, depend on your sample type. Note down your initial sample weight. Then you have to take it out and put it into this Kjeldahl tube. Before doing that, you have to make sure that you are naming the Kjeldahl tubes based on your sample type and put it into Kjeldahl tubes. When you are transferring this sample into Kjeldahl tube, be careful not to touch these samples, the walls of the Kjeldahl tube. Okay? Your initial sample weight can be changed from your sample type. In here, we are using a feed sample. According to feed samples procedure, we are using 0.5 grams of sample as the initial sample weight. Now we are done with the measuring of the sample. Now we are going to add concentrated sulfuric to facilitate the digestion. And here is the acid dispenser. This is a very concentrated acid, so you have to be very careful. In here, as we are using feed samples, we are going to add 15 milliliters of sulfuric, but depending on your sample type, the amount of sulfuric we are going to use is different. Okay? Now we are going to add sulfuric along the walls of the Kjeldahl tube. Be careful when you are handling this. Blank sample also. This is the blank sample. In here, we are going to add all the reagents and all other things except our sample. Now we are going to add the catalyst. As the catalyst, we are going to add Kjeldahl tablets. Here are the Kjeldahl tablets. For each Kjeldahl tube, we are going to add one Kjeldahl tablet as the catalyst to facilitate the reaction. the fume cupboard, and this is the setup of the digester. In here we are going to place the Kjeldahl tubes to facilitate digestion. Depending on your feed sample size, the temperature and the time duration have to be adjusted. In here we are going to use feed samples. And you have to cover the tubes like this. In here you can see the solution is very clear and transparent. If the digestion has come well occurred, you should get this kind of clear solution. If digestion has not occurred well, the solution might not be clear. Okay. So here is the distillation unit. Now we are going to put our samples into the distillation unit. But before putting your samples into this unit, first you have to do a wash down to avoid errors or other things in the machine. Then you have to do a sample run. Then you have to put your samples in the distillation unit. So first of all you are going to do a blank test. In here you have to fix the Kjeldahl to this and close. Then to a conical flask you are going to add boric acid. The amount of boric acid you are going to use depends on the sample type you are using. In here we are using feed samples, therefore we are going to use 10 milliliters of boric acid. Before you are putting your sample into the distillation unit, you have to add 0.2 grams of Devadass into the Kjeldahl tube. Then after you are going to put it into the unit. In here we are going to add sodium hydroxide and distilled water. The amount of sodium hydroxide and the distilled water we are going to use depend on the type of your sample. In here we are going to add 40 milliliters of distilled water and 70 milliliters of sodium hydroxide as we are using feed samples. We have feed the details to the machine, then we have to run the machine. Now the distillation has completed. Now we are going to remove the Kjeldahl tube. When you are removing the Kjeldahl tube, make sure that you are not going to touch it with your direct hands. Use a equipment for this because this is kind of hot. And carefully place it in a sack. And when you are removing the Kjeldahl tube, make sure that you have to remove the Kjeldahl tube, then you have to take this out because some amount of remaining solution might come into the conical flask. Okay. Then you can see the color of the solution. It is kind of greenish color. If the nitrogen has trapped well, you should get this kind of solution. If not, you will get a solution of the color having boric color. That means pinkish color. As the next step, now we are going to titrate this solution against hydrochloric acid. In here we are going to use 0.01 HCl hydrochloric acid and carefully do the titration. When we are doing the titration, it is better to add the HCl dropwise, otherwise the endpoints cannot be distinguished very well, and shake the solution from holding by the neck of the flask. And here you can see at the end point you should get a solution having this kind of color, little bit grayish in color. If you observe clearly, you can see the solution has become gray in color. That is the end point of the titration. In that point you have to stop. You have to note down the amount of HCl that has used.